This year, I want to start a new continuous series, and that is, starting from zero, how can we shoot good photos and videos? The first talk is the DSLR versus mirrorless. What are their pros and cons? And if you are still considering these two systems, hope that I can help you after watching this episode. The main difference between the two systems is the way of viewing. The reflected mirror in a camera is the most traditional method of viewing for both stills and motion pictures. For the still photo cameras, in front of the film, there's a 45 degrees mirror for reflecting the image from the lens to the optical viewfinder. When taking photos, the mirror flips up. In the era of digital, this mechanism remained unchanged. Just the frame medium is simply replaced by digital sensor. Since there is the reflected mirror, it needs the bigger body of the DSLR than the mirrorless camera. And you can see that even I've added on this speed booster, this Sony NX7 is still very small and slim. But it doesn't mean that there is any compact size DSLR. For example, this Canon 350D is very small. And there are still many compact size new DSLR from Canon and Nikon. Nevertheless, the DSLR still gets a thicker body and provide a better grip for holding the camera. Honestly speaking, I will say that the size factor may not be a very crucial reason in deciding between the two systems. So that if you really want a compact size system camera, you may choose the mirrorless camera. In terms of picture quality, I don't think there is a significant difference. For the same brand, the products in the same year will employ the same sensor for both the DSLR and mirrorless camera. But sometimes you get an illusion that the best pictures are all come from DSLR. That's because the traditional big two, Canon and Nikon, still focus on making DSLR years before. The best images are of course come from their flagship camera, and thus it gives you such illusion. But once they start making full-frame mirrorless, the image that come out are just the same good as those from the DSLR. So I will say that there won't be any image quality difference between DSLR and mirrorless. The differences only come from the different ranking of the products. Regarding the performance, we are mainly talking about three issues. First, the speed and accuracy of the autofocus. Second, the speed of burst shooting. And lastly, the data write-in speed. As said before, it seems that the best performance comes from those DSLR, since the big two are mainly making DSLR before. But you can see that the performance of the Sony's mirrorless cameras is very good, especially when the mirrorless camera also gets the face detection autofocus methods. The performance is just as good as the DSLR. Talking about the speed of burst shooting and data write-in, it just all depends on the processor. Of course, a more expensive camera will get a better processor. I would say that there's really low performance difference between the DSLR and mirrorless cameras. When Panasonic introduced the M4 format, they really want to make a very compact camera system. You can see that this 17mm kit lens is indeed very small. However, quality lenses will be inevitably big in size. For example, the Sony G series lenses from its mirrorless camera are very big in size. So I don't think the size of the lenses of these two systems really matter. However, if you put a very big lens onto a very compact size mirrorless camera, it can appear quite unbalanced. Mirrorless cameras get a very good advantage in terms of lenses. Instead, they can fit on any lenses. Of course, the native lenses could be exchanged among the different mirrorless systems. But all mirrorless cameras can use all DSLR lenses and even cinema lenses. You can see that the thickness of this speed booster is just the fringe difference between DSLR and mirrorless. For this reason, you may make all those old lenses reborn with the mirrorless camera by using an adapter. So, if you still get some old manual lenses and you really want to use them, try to consider the mirrorless cameras. Apart from the factors stated above, the main difference between DSLR and mirrorless is still a very subjective issue. That is the way of viewing. People who love DSLR, of course, love viewing through the optical viewfinder. For me, I also loved seeing through the optical viewfinder for photo taking. It is because it gives a quite surrealistic feeling. Firstly, you are still looking at the real world behind a glass, but with different feelings with different lenses. For example, if you use a lens with a shallow depth of field, then the same result will appear in front of your eyes, but in the real world. Yes, very surrealistic. But it's different in mirrorless. Actually, you can preview the final effect in the viewfinder. What you see, what you get. So, the viewfinder or the mirrorless camera is just a second smaller display, but it gets another benefit. You may have a view that's brighter than the real world in the really dark areas through the viewfinder. So, if you always shoot with viewfinder in the very dim areas, maybe it's better for you to use a mirrorless camera. One more additional comment, just my personal idea. Since we are looking through from an optical viewfinder, the DSLR may be better for beginners, since there may be a deferred result by viewing through an optical viewfinder only with low preview. It may help us to think more and get deeper impressions. There were some stupid happenings when I was learning photography and shooting with DSLR. Some of my classmates just pressed the shutter by judging with the optical viewfinder. The photos, of course, were either totally overexposed or blacked out. They got a very impressive lessons from DSLR cameras. Most of the batteries for the mirrorless cameras are also very small. In contrary, since the DSLR get a bigger body, the batteries are also bigger in size, with more capacity. On the other hand, for the mirrorless camera, even you are not shooting, the camera is still working, even in standby mode. Due to this difference of working process, mirrorless cameras get a shorter power duration per battery. Thus, for mirrorless cameras, around 300 to 400 shots per battery is indeed not bad. But the battery for DSLR can shoot at least 600 to 700 or even beyond 1,000. This is also the reasons why most of the professional reporters are still keen on using DSLR. Since the camera will not consume much power during standby. Plus, they are still loving the feeling of look through from an optical viewfinder. Let's then have a brief conclusion. Actually, there are indeed certain conditions that help us to decide between the DSLR and mirrorless cameras. Let's talk about mirrorless first. If you really want to compare in size, or you just love watching through a display, and foresee that you will rarely shoot with big lenses, plus you mainly shoot video, then I would suggest it is better for you to have a mirrorless camera. With opposite of the above conditions, that means if you prefer a bigger body, you love to look through an optical viewfinder to get a realistic feeling, you foresee that you will use many big lenses, plus you are mainly shoot still photos, then I think the DSLR is a good idea for you. By the way, someone may ask, for video shooting, why don't we simply just shoot with camcorder? Yes, you may say so, but the situation is changed for recent years. Now, you can get very impressive videos from a still type camera, especially from the full-frame hybrid. But you can hardly get a full-frame camcorder with similar price. The positions of camcorders has changed to be more professional. It seems there is no more any handycam. On the other hand, those new camcorders with tiny sensors just can't compete the quality with the updated hybrid cameras. More, filming with a hybrid still camera gives you more convenience in certain occasions than a camcorder. At least holding a camera that's much lower profile than a camcorder. But of course, finally, it all depends on your favorite and habits.